AITA for not wanting my husband to go to his stepbrother's fiance's funeral? Throwaway account because husband knows my main. I'll get to the point. I'm 30, currently 36 weeks pregnant. It's been an okay pregnancy so far, but one thing I can't stand is traveling, makes me nauseous, and flying is a big no since how far along I am. My husband's, 32, stepbrother's fiance passed away, and the funeral is next week. It's in state and he would have to fly out. As I mentioned, flying is something I can't do physically, so I unfortunately won't be able to go. My husband wants to go by himself, but I want him to stay with me, in case anything happens, God forbid, but also for support just in case. Next week when the funeral happens, is he staying there for another week with his stepbrother? My husband said because he needs to be there for him. I suggested he video call with his stepbrother to be there for him, but he said he needs to be there and I'm being unsupportive of him. We gotten into an argument over this and has been *ist off at me since, but I don't know if I really am being unsupportive of my husband. AITA?
AITA for telling my mom to get over that she doesn't like my baby's name. We had a really hard time picking our son's name. We finally settled on Leon and felt really good about it. Not too common, not too weird. Has a long history. Then my mom decides to tell me that she has a cousin-in-law that I have never heard of before named Leon who was horrible to the family, and she hates the name and won't say it, will only call him a nickname. In my opinion, that's a stupid reason considering I've never heard anything about this person before now, and she's making up nicknames that are not his name, and continually bringing it up. It's his name, it's done. Today I told her to get over it, when she proposed another nickname for him, and now she's really upset with me because she thinks she needs a say in her grandchild's name.
AITA for wanting my mom to call my daughter by the name we gave her? Let me start off by saying that I am a new father. From the moment my mother found out my fiancé and I were having a baby, she wanted to be very involved. Before we found out the gender, my fiancé and I already planned and came up with the name of our child. We picked out a boy name and a girl name respectively. Both names were rejected by my mom, dad and aunt. My parents wanted to name our. They said that this is their first grandchild and should have the right to name it. For days we were pressured into changing the names that we decided into the names my parents wanted. I finally put my foot down and said no. This is our child and we will name it whatever we decide to name the baby. About a month passed and we found out that our baby is going to be a girl. For privacy's sake, let her Jessica. Jessica was the name that my fiancé and I decided to go with because it just felt right. However, my parents insisted on calling her Jasmine because it stuck in their heads. Every time they call her Jasmine, I repeat, her name is Jessica. This was an everyday occurrence up until the day my baby girl was born. Now that she is born and on her signed birth certificate it says Jessica, there is nothing my parents can do. However, they still call her Jasmine. I've recently gotten into an argument with my mother over it. She said that yes, her legal name is Jessica, but I will call her Jasmine because that's the name that is stuck in my head. I told her no, her name is Jessica. You cannot call her a name that is not the one we gave her. I explained to her that she can call her any or pet name she likes. But she will not disrespect me as the father of my child by calling her the name that she wants and not the name I have given the child. She said that I am being disrespectful by telling her not to call her anything other than Jessica. It's not that I don't want her to give her a nickname or pet name. I just feel like she is undermining my fiancé and I decision to name our daughter. Reddit. Am I the *hole for wanting my daughter to be called by her given name and not a name my mom wants? Edit 1. My family comes from Jamaica. My mom is Christian, so I'm not sure if faith has anything to do with it. I live at home with my parents, so keeping my daughter away isn't possible at this moment. I love my parents and I want them to my daughter's life. I have amazing grandparents in mind that have always been there when I needed them and I want her to have the same. My fiancé's mom called her Jasmine as well. No, she did not communicate this to my parents, it's just something that ironically happened. However, my fiancé told her to stop and she did. I will show them what you guys are. Edit 2. Moving out isn't an option right now. We're saving for a house and we are still in nursing school. Yes, we could afford to live in an apartment, but that would slow the buying a house process significantly. It's either I can move into a house or spend money on an apartment, and recently the renting prices have doubled. My fiancé and I make more than enough to cover rent, so we could move out. I just don't know if we should since we are so close to our dream.
AITA for forwarding my brother his wife's texts? My 29F brother Todd, 33M, is married to Haley, 31F, and they have a 10-mo son, Josh. My family moved in Switzerland when we were young, but Todd went back to the US for college, which is where he met Haley, and they've since moved back to Switzerland when Haley got pregnant. Since Haley and Todd got married, and especially since she gave birth, Haley has been trying to involve my mother and me in her and Todd's relationship. She started texting my mother when she and Todd would disagree, asking my mother her opinion or if she could talk to Todd on her behalf. My mother was very uncomfortable with this. My mother was happy to help out with anything to do with adjusting to living in a different country, but she really didn't want to get involved in Haley and Todd's relationship. Then Haley started texting me. She would get in Audie's agreement with Todd and text me the next day asking me to come to her house to talk about it, or ask me for advice. I said was not getting involved in my brother's marriage and that it was inappropriate, but that didn't stop her. She started showing up at my mother's house unannounced, and even tried to once at my apartment. We've all separately spoken to Todd about this many times. Anders said he will talk to her about it, but nothing ever changes. A few days ago I got a call from Haley. She was screaming and sobbing so loudly my sales assistant could hear her even though she wasn't on loudspeaker. What I ended up being able to understand was that Todd about money and he had changed his credit card details, and she was upset. She wanted me to talk to him, but I told her I was not getting involved in this and I was sick of her trying to drag me into her marriage. I told her that from now on any messages or information shared with me would be passed along to Todd because I was done, and hung up. She tried to call back, didn't pick up. Then a barrage of texts start coming through. I forwarded them all to Todd and told him this stuff needs to stay on his plate, no tours, and we're sick of her behavior. Todd apologized and said he'd do something about it. That evening, I got a long text from Haley saying she can't believe I forwarded her messages to Todd and that I betrayed her confidence and that I was a terrible person for never helping her with anything. I just forwarded the message to Todd. Since then I haven't heard from her, and neither has me mother. I was at lunch with my friends yesterday, all of whom know about the background to this, and they all said that while I definitely should have Todd handled it, I probably shouldn't have forwarded him the messages immediately, and that I did betray Haley's trust. I don't think I did, considering I warned her what I would do if she didn't stop. I've also been speaking to Todd, and this has caused mayhem in their household, so now I'm feeling bad because that wasn't my intention. AITA? Edit. Read the credit card information and the comments about Todd. He did not change his credit card information. Haley attempted to make a large purchase on his card that flagged as suspicious, and the card was blocked. Todd has never restricted Haley's access to money, particularly as Haley has her own cards and savings in her own accounts. Nothing Haley has ever said about Todd make us think there's anything more serious going on, and I've seen with my own eyes a copy of the statement. I know what the charge was for. It was a large personal purchase, nothing that was a necessity for Haley or the baby.
AITA for not moving my music room. To start off, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. AITA's for low-income families, but at the moment it's just me. I'm a music student with both bass and drums. I use my furthest bedroom as my music room where I practice. The way the floor plan is set up, the apartment to my left mirrors mine, but the one to my right is opposite and only one floor. I've lived here for the last 6 years and have gotten along with my neighbors. Last month, a new couple moved in the left one apartment with a newborn. Maybe a week old at that point, so now a month. I'm unsure how they had it set up for the first 2 weeks, but 2 weeks ago I was practicing on the drums and was interrupted by pounding on the door because I woke the baby up. I apologized and double-checked my sound padding, but also have a drum booth, but found no gaps. The sound is muffled but loud enough to be heard in the mirrored room, but nowhere else in the other apartment. I know that based on that guy that lived there before. A few days later it happened again while practicing, and I noticed I could hear the baby crying almost perfectly. I got in a screaming match with the husband and we got the apartment manager to come out and settle it. Turns out they put the kid's crib right on the other side of the wall where my drum setup is. The couple said that was the only room with the amount of natural light they wanted for the kid. They told me to move the room I used for music, and I agreed as long as they footed the bill for the soundproofing, and they called me an asshole. Now they calling in non-stop noise complaints. Edited to say the couple actually agreed the only room they could hear the drums in was that one room. However, they like the lighting in there, so they won't move the baby. The neighbors on the other side were surprised to find out I had drums. The only 2 rooms you can hear the drums are the ones that share a wall, and it sounds muffled as if someone in the room with you was watching a loud YouTube video.